Welcome back to the Southside YMCA here in Chicago as First Take State of the Nation special continues. Molly Karen back here with Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, and Rajon Rondo, one of the newest members of the Bulls. Thank you so much for being here with us. And we know since you joined this community, you have been full speed ahead, investing your time and energy into this community, so we want to commend you on that. And you just heard that powerful SB speech. What role do you think former and current athletes should play in terms of social activism?
I think we should play a big role. You know, it's our platform. We have one of the biggest platforms there is. We're on TV every night. And like Mr. Michael said, these are our fans. These are their concerns. So we have to put their concerns out there and let the world know what's really going on.
You know, you're not from Chicago. You just got to the Chicago Bulls. By the way, they're better for it. Thank the good Lord you're here. Let me say this. I want to know what sparked you to get in the trenches and get involved so immediately. Usually we'll see an athlete, they'll come to town, they sort of feel their way through, try to establish themselves within the community. You wasted no time. Why did you not?
Well, I think it was destiny. I didn't just start when I got here. It started last year when I was with the Sacramento Kings, and as I said yesterday, I would go around, I would talk to my assistant, Shauna Smith, and I wanted to make a difference on the young kids. So in each city, when I had some downtime, I wanted to go out and speak to 10 to 12 young men and women, and just tell them my story, and if they had any questions, I wanted them to pick my brain. And then as far as me being a mentor, just be able to talk to them and let them know that someone else cares. But when I got to Chicago, I was actually playing Milwaukee Bucks. I drove up to Chicago about an hour, and she had set up a dinner for me with 10 young men. And that day on, it kind of changed my life. I was able to hear those guys' stories. And, you know, I think I didn't have a background, or I didn't grow up as rough as these kids here did in Chicago, but it was pretty bad. So I tried to, kind of relate a little bit, but those guys told me those stories, and it touched me so much. I wanted to make an impact and continue to stay in their life. You know, I didn't want to do a one-day trip with those guys or just come and say hi, and then tomorrow they're still going through the same things. They have no one to talk to. So I felt it was me. I wouldn't be in the situation I am today if I didn't have mentors to come in and help me, if I had problems, or if it was someone I wanted to look up to, because we didn't have a hometown. In Louisville, Kentucky, we didn't have an NBA team. We didn't have any professional team at all. So it was, the University of Louisville or University of Kentucky. But when I met a professional athlete, Derek Anderson, Mike Bibby, they exposed me to different things, the different opportunities that were out there in the world that I didn't know before.
What would you say to the athlete? Because you're known for your, they call it basketball IQ, but to understand the game at a certain level, you have to be smart, right? What would you say to the athlete who's like, look, I want to do something. But these are complicated issues. No matter what I say, there's some special interest group that's going to have a problem with it. If I talk about gun violence or the number of guns on the street, whatever it is, it's like I'm in the middle of controversy. I don't understand it the way you do, and what does that guy do?
Well, first he educates himself. He puts himself around people that are smart, that do know what they're talking about and what's going on, and just try to continue to follow if they don't know how to lead.
Give me a sense, because covering the league for as many years as I've covered it, there's always been a few individuals who were willing to speak up and speak out, but at the same time, there was this fear that ramifications would come with it. If we speak up, it's going to cost us endorsements. If we speak up, it's going to cost us dollars. It might cost a particular team to say, we don't want that guy in this particular market because our fan base might not be receptive to that. I want you to tell me about today's NBA culture, whether or not you think that reality has changed, and how much have guys like Carmelo Anthony and LeBron and CP3 and D. Wade and yourself have helped push forth a new kind of movements when it comes to athletes being willing to speak out?
I think it's a big change. I think Michael hit it as well. Going back when Muhammad Ali was who he was, and when he did speak out, he was punished for it, but basically, when he stood up for what he believed in. So I don't know if guys are thinking of that nature as far as, they might get a lot of backlash if they do speak out. It's something that's really wrong that we need to speak up on. So, but for me personally, I never really cared about what people said about me. Whatever I believe in, I try to go forward, and I want to do the right thing always as possible, but I try to do my research, I do my background, so if I am speaking on something, I know what I'm talking about. So what Carmelo did, what LeBron, Chris, and other guys did was big. They set the platform, they set the standard high, and a couple of days ago I was watching Good Morning America, and what LeBron's doing in Cleveland is tremendous. If guys don't know what to do, they can just follow the blueprint of certain guys that are doing things in that nature.
That's a good answer. You've been around the league long enough now to have seen a transition, I guess largely with social media, from a league where the best players didn't necessarily take very public stances about very important issues, as LeBron and these guys are doing now. What, in your opinion, has changed? Is it who the best players in the league are, or is it the environment now that enables them to do it more?
It's the platform. It's the cell phones. You know, it's what we have. You know, we have this large platform on TV, like I said. We have the social media, and we can touch fans in so many different ways, and they can touch us as well. You know, we're a click of a button. You can interact with your fans, so it's very important.
I know the NBA is very, you know, very supportive of you guys in terms of tackling these issues. Adam Silver, the commissioner, has been on the record stating as much. I'm interested in knowing
I would like for them to do more.
You would like? I was getting ready to ask you that. Would you like to? What do you mean by that?
I think when you all mentioned about the NBA Cares event, how we might go to All-Star Weekend City and then we go plant a tree. But for me personally, that's frustrating because that does nothing. You know, the next day, those kids are still hungry. Those kids still go to bed with their problems. That's just a one-day fix. We have to continue to try to, I think, develop a curriculum to where we get together and constantly try to make a change month by month. You have to stay consistent with it. You can't just go do a one-day event and then the rest of the year they have nothing to lean on.
I was going to go there because what I wanted to ask is, it's one thing for the NBA and their need to do more, but the individual teams under the umbrella of the NBA, how encouraging are they of the participation of their athletes in the community for things that you find important as opposed to things the team finds important?
I would like to just speak on the Bulls.
Yes, okay.
Other organizations were great, but I know the Bulls in particular, they're one of the best teams, player development that helps their players do what they want to do, seek their goals. So I think it's destiny for me to be here, and I'm very happy to work with guys like Sean down at the Bulls. It's going to help, do what's right in the community.
Yeah, what do you plan on doing for athletes that want to follow your lead here in this community?
Well, for me personally, I just want to get out and touch. I want to go in the communities. I want to hear these people's problems. I want to find out how we can help these kids, educate them, whether it's writing to a politician, figure out. We want the people to know that we're here. Mm-hmm. And I want to team up with the White Sox or the Cub players or Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bears players and figure out a solution. We all have this great platform. We're on TV every day. The fans are watching some type of sport every day, and we continue to try to have one message. We can get on the same page with the mayor. We can get on the same page with the police, and figure out we can all preach one message consistently every month. Because Chicago will be the blueprint. I would like to take this blueprint back to where I'm from, Louisville, Kentucky, and help solve those issues as well. So it's a bigger issue. It's not going to get solved in one day, but we could continue to try to get the right people together and make some better and great change.
No question, and this is a start here today. And you mentioned mentoring earlier, and that's something any of us can do regardless of their platform.
That's showing genuine leadership, what Rajon Rondo is doing.
No question. Rajon, thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate you, and this community is really lucky to have you.
I appreciate everything you just said, and I appreciated the things that you were silent about as well, because it gave me beautiful ideas. I got the message.
We got it. We got it. Read between the lines. All right, when we come back, we'll hear from more of Chicago's own and discuss their experience with social unrest in this community. More from the Southside YMCA when First Take returns.
What's going on? Tell me what's going on. I'll tell you what's going on. Woo!
What the hell is happening? If you tilt your ear to the sky, you can hear it. The sound of a gun, louder than my voice, but the noise won't silence me. If I'm killed tomorrow, you will hear of my arrest record, but not how I loved Pokemon and read Kool-Aid, how my mother is proud of me though I graduated late. You will hear every reason I deserved a bullet, but not why you should listen to me speak. Do you hear me now? Autopsies in Baton Rouge, Baltimore, Ferguson, Chicago, Milwaukee. The killings of police and by police should make everybody want to scream. These stats are not a game. Names being cremated into hashtags. How many more bodies have to pile up, badge or not, selling cigarettes or not, before we admit the system is broken? Do you hear me now? Silence is violence. Do you hear me now? Marching in the streets, our children need to be held and each other held accountable. How did we get here? is the answer to where we need to go. But dialogue can only begin when we all speak up. If justice is what love looks like in public, then we must love harder than what we do, relinquish the privilege of a few, speak louder than we do, give more than what we do, sweat more than what we do, because this is not a single game we play. Equality is a team sport, and the only way to win is together.
Welcome back to the Southside YMCA for this First Take special here in Chicago, the State of the Nation. And Dr. Michael Eric Dyson back with us from Georgetown University. Thank you so much for being here with us. But behind every murder statistic is somebody left with loss. And joining us now is Stephanie Brown, whose 13-year-old son, Darius, was killed in a gang crossfire while playing basketball. Darius had dreams of making it to the NBA. That was his passion. Stephanie's with us now. Thank you so much. We heard you speak last night. You did a tremendous job in just having the courage to share your story here with us. But tell us how you've been dealing with the loss of your son and the violence overall in the city.
It's been really hard, but at the same time, you just can't give up because it's just not me that lost Darius. He has other siblings and other friends, so you just have to keep moving. But it's definitely difficult, you know, to get over it when you're constantly hearing it day after day after day, and then just knowing that there's another mother, another family that's going to go through the same thing that you're going through.
In the throes of trouble, first of all, I'm incredibly sorry for your loss.
Thank
My
you.
heart, and speaking on behalf of everybody on the show, our thoughts and prayers are always with you and your family. Let me ask you this. When you hear about the violence, knowing that your son was a victim of that, can you talk to me about the things that enter your mind in terms of what you're hearing out there and what you think needs to be said that hasn't been said about things that you find relatable to your experience?
Well, because this is not an isolated issue, it keeps happening over and over again. I don't think it's something that I can say that has not been said. There's been a lot of great points made today, just as was last night, over and over again, from many different levels, from religious leaders, you know, from parents, even our politicians. But the change has to come definitely from us as individuals, wanting to be a better person, wanting to be a better individual, wanting to see our children do better in life.
As someone, I lost a family member also, you're part of this terrible club. You know, when you lose a family member to violence, you're part of this terrible club, but in another way you get a certain kind of comfort in a weird way, at least from my personal experience, knowing that others have gone through something similar. But in your case, you're coming from a community where that's so prevalent. I'm just wondering how that shapes your experience.
Well, actually, at the time when Darius was murdered, it wasn't as prevalent. That was very shocking. But since he has been murdered, there has been children much younger than him being shot and killed. But I don't want everybody to think that Chicago is just this terrible place. We got a lot of beautiful children striving to do great things, my children included. You got children here. So that was just not the norm, but we have seen, we're 5 years into this now. Darius was murdered in 2011, and just as Stephen A. says, the statistics, they keep growing and growing and growing. So that does sadden me, but we still have to have hope.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you brought that up because I feel the need to say something, a couple of things here. First of all, we're not here in Chicago because there aren't a lot of great, loving, God-fearing people in Chicago. We're here because we know that they are.
Right.
And that it's being stolen from us by folks inside and outside of our community for one reason or another. And we need to pay attention to this and bring attention to this. And I'm going to piggyback off of what she said by saying that, but I'm also going to get back to you, Dr. Dyson, in this regard. Rajon Rondo just sat there. And one of the things that he brought up was education and not just showing up for one day and doing more. I want to know about solutions, and I want to talk about solutions, because when I think about education, Max, like you brought up, yes, the NBA cares, and we're not casting any aspersions on the NBA, NFL. We appreciate the efforts that they put forth. But when we talk about things that they could do more of, education's a big deal. What about sponsoring some charter schools? What about, I mean, if you've got the money, the billions of dollars that these leagues collect, and we're not talking Democrat, we're not talking Republican, we're not getting political here.
Right.
I'm saying with the money alone, combined with the conscience of professional athletes and what they're displaying today. Am I wrong, Dr. Dyson, in bringing up the fact that if you sponsored a couple of charter schools, I'm talking about each team, sponsoring a couple of charter schools in their respective cities, that's 30 NBA cities. That's 32 NFL cities. You're talking about the possibility of 60 in one league, another 64 in another league, over 100 plus charter schools that could exist throughout this nation, where we could help educate our young minds so they don't find themselves in a situation. How plausible is that in your mind? Is that something that should be broached and thought about?
No, I think it's a brilliant idea, and I would expand it beyond charter schools, because what happens is you end
charter, private,
right, but
public school system?
You end up cherry picking those you think should be saved and spared from the onslaught, as opposed to the broader children who are there. So I think there are existing schools that the NBA, the NFL, and other sports leagues can partner with here in this city, in Philadelphia, in Detroit, in Newark. Look, you're in a city where public schools have been closed.
Yeah, a ton of public schools have been closed in Chicago.
Huge numbers.
Especially Detroit as well.
Detroit as well, where I'm from. So here's the point. Those resources could be funneled directly into those schools, because we know teachers spend out of their pockets for materials and resources for these young children, number one. Number two, it would relieve the necessity some people have found of having police people stationed in these schools, as opposed to responsible adults who mentor these young people. Thirdly, you talk about challenging all of us to be responsible. Not only the NFL and the NBA and all of those sports
and Major League Baseball,
Major League
National
Baseball,
Hockey, all of them.
All of them, right? The puck is black.
That's right.
But the players are white, so it's already integrated. So what's interesting is that when you think about also parents and local organizations joining together to say, we will not take this on our watch, we will stand watch over our children, we will protect them, because nobody wants to excuse the lethargy, the inertia, but also the vicious assault upon vulnerable people here. Just because we speak about structural realities doesn't mean we don't have personal responsibility to resist those. And I think if we bring the resources of these big sports leagues together to target these schools with goodness, as opposed with badness, that would be the best kind of gang warfare in the most uplifting sense that we could think about.
And if people need someone to follow right in your community, the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy, he has started one and doing great work in his community, and can follow suit with Jalen. Also joining us today is Father Michael Flagler, a priest at St. Sabina Church here in Chicago Southside. He's been a voice against the violence and bringing about change. Thank you so much for being here, Father. We so appreciate it. What do you think, Father, what do you think is at the heart of the violence we're seeing in these streets?
Well, I think it's real comprehensive. I think, first of all, personal responsibility is important. We got to deal with this self-inflicted genocide going on in our communities. We got to deal with rogue police that are killing. But I think we have to have the courage to deal with and face the inequality, Michael, that you keep talking about, that is real out here. When you have 9 or 10 of the communities where most violence happens in Chicago, you have double-digit unemployment, you have poor, underfunded, underperforming schools, you have most coming back from prison with a bus card and $20, you have most boarded-up buildings, you have no economic development, and you have guns being poured in, and nobody seems to give a damn about those communities. We should wonder why there's not more violence. We have a tale of two cities in Chicago and across this nation. We've got to equal the playing field and you can't help people value your community, value yourself. Well, you tell me every day my community is not valued, that I'm not valued. So how do you expect me to value myself when every day I walk around and look at a community that has been abandoned and neglected and tell me I'm a throwaway?
Well, again, I appreciate that, and there's certainly nothing that I disagree with about that. But I do think that it's important what I brought up before. You know, the black community historically has dealt with dire circumstances, and we've climbed up from the abyss and propelled ourselves to new heights. Yet somehow, some way in this day and age, it seems more problematic to do so than ever before. The reasons, again, I would leave to both of you to articulate, but I do think it's important to recognize that ancestors who came before us that would argue that the trials and tribulations were tougher for them than it is for us found a way to climb from the abyss. So if we're not not doing so, and on top of it all, we're harming ourselves, then to me, that is a reality that we can't escape and we can't deal with. And when we talk about de-education, when we talk about charter schools and things of that nature, what I'm saying to you is this: the money is there, the opportunities are there for us to have these sports leagues and athletes and others, including ourselves, the media especially as well. We all can make a contribution in a very positive way.
But look at, no doubt about that, but look at this. Let's look at an earlier epoch and era in American society. Late 1800s, early 1900s, when you had Poles, Jews, Italians coming into the shtetl, into the ghettos of our major northern urban cities. And they had some of, and in Chicago as well, they had some of the same problems that African American and Latino face today. Were they demonized? No. Were they stigmatized? No. Harvard professors got together with social activists and social engineers to reconstitute and reconfigure those communities. They didn't say these people were evil. Now, Irish people had a trouble getting into education, as did Jews, but what happened is they didn't place the enormous stigma on the backs of those people. They used their social resources to change the society, and therefore the people could become better. Dorothy Day, the great Catholic social worker, said, I want to work toward a world where it's possible for people to behave decently. Decent behavior is not the product of mere individual will. It is also the accomplices that are good. The society that helps, the educational system that helps, the police system that helps. And as a result of that, you don't begin to A, demonize these people, B, throw them away. And what we're not dealing with is what Father Flager said. The message that so many of these communities get is that you are disposable, you are not worthy, you do not count. We see it on television, we hear it on radio, we hear it on the right-wing media. By God, we got a man running for president who has amplified the worst bigotry imaginable in the American scene for the last 50 years.
Yeah, but wait.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
So I'm saying, I'm saying that those same black people, you know what those black people did? They changed the laws. Martin Luther King Jr. and Ralph Abernathy and Ella Baker changed laws that prevented people from flourishing.
But I want to speak to that because I think you're absolutely right. There's nothing that you said that could even remotely be disputed. My problem is this. Again, I listen to Joe Madison some mornings. My man Joe Madison, your man Joe Madison,
no doubt.
Karen Hunter. But I also listen to right-wingers. I watch Hardball. I watch The Situation Room.
Gotcha.
I watch Fox. I listen to everything to try and educate myself to the best of my ability while reading, by the way. But having said all of that, let's be clear about something. When we talk about the abyss that people are climbing up from, all the things that you highlighted, we as a people historically have said the odds are stacked against us. Succeed anyway. The obstacles are there. Succeed anyway. When I give speeches, and I'm on the lecture circuit a lot, when I give speeches, and stay with me because I'm going to pause here, I always sit up there and say, racism doesn't exist. Pause. Obviously, I'm lying. Of course it exists. But it has always existed, and we have found a way to climb. So why is it that we're not doing that now?
We are, though, Stephen.
We're here in Chicago because people...
Those people did not produce the first black president of the United States of America, but we have. Those people did not produce the first attorney general who's black, but we have. Those people did not produce the first director of NASA who's black, but we have. Those people did not have an extraordinary concentration of talent at many schools in this, not only in this city, but in this nation. So what I'm saying to you, part of it is the focus. Part of it is to say that African American people have done an extraordinary job of not only climbing out of the abyss, but renaming it, using hip-hop culture, right? Using hip-hop culture to articulate their viewpoints. Those who were left behind, the wrong Negroes got the microphone, so that Snoop Dogg and Jay-Z says, and after all my teachers couldn't beat me, and my mama couldn't beat me hard enough to match the pain of my pops not seeing me. He talked about the pain of father absence, but Tupac also said just the other day, I got lynched by some crooked cops, and to this day, them same cops on the beat getting major pay, but when I get my check, they taking tax out, so we paying the cops to knock the blacks out. That's progress. They named the abyss, they redefined the abyss, and they continue to succeed. Most black people are doing well in this country. The ones who are not, we have to speak to in a very serious fashion.
And Professor, in terms of your issue that you're raising, Stephen A., if we're talking about the murder rate in particular, on the one hand, I very much appreciate the idea of internalized oppression, right, which we talk about, including some language that's been co-opted that always comes up when the idea of internalized oppression comes up. But maybe also if black life is cheap, that can be internalized too in the community. Absolutely. But in terms of systemic problems and the murder rate, The fact is, since the 1960s, because so many guns have been produced and are on the streets, more people have died of gun violence in the United States since the 60s than every soldier, every American soldier in every war ever fought by this country, including the first and Second World Wars. That's the reality of the presence of guns. So if we're measuring progress in terms of the murder rate, I think that has a lot to do with the answer.
Let me also mention, we did invite the Chicago police to join us. They did decline, and
which is a bad thing and a mistake on their part.
Right.
Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, thank you so much for joining us and educating us.
As always, this is the kind of education I get over the phone.
Unbelievable. I also want to thank Stephanie Brown sharing your story. Our heart goes out to you. Thank you so much for being with us. Father Michael Flagler, God bless you, the work you do.
Go hear that man preach.
Thank you so much.
Man.
I would love to. I can only imagine. After the break.